the bar has been buffed again, and at this point, I have lost count at how many times that it's been. I want to say this is maybe the 5th or even 6th time the bar has been buffed. And as with every buff, they touch the same statistics. But just quickly look at this clip of how quickly I turn with this big hefty tank. Just under 7 seconds to do a full rotation. A full rotation with this big boy. And we're picking up speed very quickly. And that's because the stuff that was buffed with this vehicle is, again, stuff that's been buffed with this vehicle previously. They refuse to give it the 2 degrees or 1 degree of gun depression that this vehicle needs to be viable. So instead they keep over-tuning its other statistics. And you see there, I overswung when trying to look at the light tank. And that might remind you of the tier 6 Italian tank destroyer. In this next clip, we're going to show you, again, just how quick the turn speed is. I have AP loaded, but I decide ammo swapper, shoot the healthy GW Tiger, and I go past the King Dragon, but I noticed he fired, and I'm able to turn before he can reload, and now what is he going to do? Now what is he going to do? Plus, look how good that reload was, 11.3. That is the small gun. And I was using the small gun because it does get 1 degree of gun depression initially. I was using that for that reason. And both guns have above 4,000 DPM. Again, this vehicle is overtuned in so many departments, and yet it's still probably one of the worst tier 9s in the game. And that's because they refuse to give it what it needs. This, like last video, was a tank that has been buffed this season after a conversation that we had with Bam in one of my streams. And I tried giving him, well, we tried telling him all it needs is 1 to 2 degrees of gun depression. He had other ideas, and we discussed them. Ultimately, neither of our ideas, mine or Bam's, actually made it into the game. Instead, they buffed a bunch of other stuff, which we'll go over right now. By the way, at the beginning of this clip for this match, I show the leaderboard because for some reason, I didn't look at the scoreboard at the end of the game, so you can see that there were no bots in this game, just to clarify. But quickly, let's go over what they changed to the bar. And again, if you've seen bar changes before, you probably won't be surprised at seeing these values that I'm about to list off to you changed yet again, because it's just their MO at this point. If the bar is still performing badly, just keep buffing these values until it doesn't. However, with the super limited gun arc to the left and right and the 0 degrees of gun depression, no matter how much you overtune the bar will not become a playable tank. All it will become is a sort of sleeper tank on certain maps and in certain players' hands who can make something so disgusting work. Because right now, we have the 305mm gun on this vehicle having a 0.4 base accuracy value and a 21.5 second reload. Those were both buffed with this update, as well as its aim time from 2.9 to 2.7. The reload time was buffed by a whole second, and the accuracy was buffed by 0.02. The smaller gun on this vehicle actually got a huge buff from its accuracy going from 0.4 to 0.35 with a 22 centimeter gun, a 220mm gun. Its reload got a whole 1.6 seconds of reload time buff from 17.6 to 16 seconds, and its aim time from 2.7 to 2.5. This vehicle has above 4,000 DPM with both of its guns now, and fairly decent accuracy. But it gets kind of more insane with the rotation speed buffs. And it's not just because the rotation speed sounds much better from a 30 to 34, it's because the horsepower on the top engine has been buffed multiple times before, and it was sitting at 1,200 horsepower, but now it's sitting at 1,500 horsepower. Again, this vehicle, they refuse to try to attempt to do what needs to be done with this vehicle, and instead buff all other categories of the vehicle to try and make it feel better. It's been given armor, it's been given speed, here we go, giving it speed again, gun handling on its gun again. Here you see me and Carnave trying to use this ridge to sort of shoot down at people, and don't ask me why I went here on Malinovka, but we did. I think it's a shallow excuse to say that the armor model of a fictitious tank that we made can't be changed to give it more degrees of gun depression. And I don't want this thing to be a hold-down monster. It's just that while the Sturmtiger P works with its very limited gun depression, and the Sturmtiger at the tier 10 works with its 4 degrees, that's because both of those are somewhat low-profile vehicles, and their gun isn't so high. This is a Tiger 2 chassis with a gun that's pretty high. So, oftentimes, on flats, in even cities, on straight-up flats, I can't shoot at half of the heavy tanks that I fight. I have to hope that the other heavy tanks that are fighting with me are tall enough for me to be able to shoot them. Or just tall enough for me to be able to splash HE on the top of their tank. But BZ-176s, even IS-7s, 777s, there's plenty of low-profile heavy tanks, 277s. And there are certain maps, like Siegfried Line, that you just can't play in the places you would want to play this vehicle in. And then the places where it feels like you can play it, you're obviously at a disadvantage because you're huge, you have no camo, you have a bad gun in terms of shell velocity and hitting shots on the move. So you want to go and brawl with this vehicle, but you just can't. Unless you can somehow find a way to lift your back end up on a flat street to be able to go and brawl. And there's very limited maps that allow you to do that. And even on maps that allow you to do that, like Berlin perhaps, you're not in a good position finding rubble pieces that let you lift your back end up. You're just not. Ruinberg is one good map, and that's because there's a slight like tilt to the whole map, and also divots in the floor that you can put your front end in. But maps like Siegfried Line and Himmelsdorf just suck for this vehicle. And I mean, most maps in general just suck for this vehicle because trying to snipe isn't very helpful. But when they sit still like that, and you can just auto-lock, I mean, the enemy giving it to you is all you can hope for, really, in this tank. I don't understand why we can't just shave down the underbarrel and lower the cap, the barrel cap end, just a little bit. Just to give the tank 1 or 2 degrees of gun depression. So that it can at least HE the top of low-profile heavy tanks. I can take this into city fights and not feel like I'm at such a disadvantage. Heilbronn is another good example of a map that, well, city fights are rare in the first place, but even if you go over there, you can't do stuff. You can't do anything. And you don't want to fight in the field because you just get crapped on, you know? This tank has gone from really, really, really bad to scarily good if you get the right map and if you get the right enemies. But it shouldn't need to do that. I think you can nerf many of the buffs we've done to this vehicle if you just gave it 1 or 2 degrees of gun depression. And again, I've already stated that I think it's a shallow excuse to say, oh, we can't give it gun depression because of the armor model that we made, whether it was from blueprints or not. Fictitious tank, fictitious game, we're allowed to change things. We somehow gave the 121 and the 113 2 more degrees of gun depression over the front and the sides, from 3 and 5 to 5 and 7. So I don't understand how we can't find a way to do the same with the bar. And if we did, it really wouldn't change this tank from a non-scary, bullyable tank that, oh, if you got shot, it's completely your fault. It would change the tank to a... You know how you feel when you fight another Sturmtiger, right? Like, we have the Sturmtiger in the game, and I don't think the Sturmtiger is OP at all. I think it's very powerful, and it's very easy to play. But I don't think the bar would even reach the levels of the Sturmtiger with 1 to 2 degrees of gun depression. All it would do is make the tank playable. And that's all it needs. It's weird that we have, like, a tank with such... Don't get me wrong. I like tanks that have limiting factors to them to make your, you know, the idea of playing the tank challenging. But usually those factors, like on a wheelie tank, just mean you have to play your light tank role a little bit differently. This vehicle feels like it wants to brawl because of its slow shell velocity, its very tight gun arc, its bad camo, its armor they've given it, right? It feels like it wants to brawl, but it just can't half the time. And like I said earlier, Ruinberg is a decent map for this tank because of how tilted and slanted the roads are and how bumpy and hilly it is over here. I think Icebound might be a good map for this vehicle as well, because infamously that map had a lot of bumps to it that would get light tanks to hurt themselves by driving over them. But on pure flats, like, again, Heilbronn and Himmelsdorf and the Siegfried Line City, it's just impossible to do anything against certain tanks. And again, 1 to 2 degrees of gun depression wouldn't make it all of a sudden to where I could pen IS-7s. It just means I could look at the top of their turrets and shoot an HE round into them. And again, I just think that's all it needs. I would revert the buffs, sorry. I would revert the buffs that they've given it in this patch and multiple buffs before it. I would keep the armor though. The armor's not even that good, but the slight armor buffs they gave it does make it a little bit better in brawling scenarios, especially the upper plate. But the thing about the tank is, again, look what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to lift my tank up, and ultimately, because you need to do that, you make even your armor buffs pointless. I'm giving my upper plate at an angle that's much flatter now. My casemate's not that strong either, and again, by doing that, I show a little bit more of my roof and the top of my casemate, which is weaker. And so the way you have to play this vehicle takes away all the strengths you have just to make it playable. And so I think it's a no-brainer to just give it 1 to 2 degrees of gun depression. I truly think it's a no-brainer. Otherwise, you have to start changing maps for this vehicle so that they're bumpy like this, like Ruinberg. But I don't want that either. Hopefully, through all my yapping we've just done, you understand the situation with the bar. I don't think it is a completely garbage tank, because again, it's been so power crept itself. Like, it's power crept itself with how much power they've given it. If you can just get in those situations where you can shoot at certain tanks. But the moment you find yourselves in bad maps, you just question why you even picked the tank in the first place. And again, that's fine if it wasn't for the fact that the things that hold back the tank also get rid of its best strengths. Again, having to lift up your armor to be able to see certain people just ruins your armor. The identity of this vehicle hurts itself, and I guess that's it. One of the suggestions, by the way, was giving it arty view, and I think that would not even work, so to speak. Nor is it something it needs, unless we're gonna change the whole artillery class to play more like the bar, which I mean we kind of have. I don't think giving the bar the artillery view is a good idea. And don't worry, however, if they did give it arty view, it wouldn't all of a sudden be able to sit at the back of the map. I don't think. Maybe it would, and that would maybe make the bar good now, because you could just be an artillery piece. But also, begging a question, would we give arty view to the other tanks of this line? And then just turn it into an artillery tank line at this point. And I don't think we need to do that. I think that suggestion should stop right there as just a suggestion. I don't think it's the right fix for this tank. The rest of the line is good. If you've played this line, the Sturm Panzer at tier 7 is fantastic. The Sturm Tiger P is actually my favorite in the line, even though a lot of people don't really like it, but I think it's great. And again, it's It has a low profile sort of hull. Its gun is slightly low profile, or much more low profile than this tank. What a snapshot there. And the tank has 1 degree of gun depression, and it's just so much more playable than the bar itself. The Sturm Tiger at tier 10 is also great. 4 degrees of gun depression, good upper plate armor, a good brawling tank. This tank is just a, I play this tank to punish myself kind of tank. You know what I mean? You have to get through it to get to the good Sturm Tiger, and you play it after playing 2 good tanks at tier 7 and 8. But it is what it is. I'm sure the bar will probably get buffed again in the future. And until the buff shows some gun depression, I don't think the bar will ever be super good. You can make the argument, of course, that with all these buffed values that it has, it is a sleeper pick, and it surely is. But it is very map dependent and enemy playstyle dependent as well. If they stand still for you and let you hit them, I mean, any tank could be good, right? But good luck on Siegfried Line, good luck on Heilbronn, good luck on Himmelsdorf, good luck on certain maps. But with that, that'll do it for today. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.